to the continuing story of Peyton Place. Starring Dorothy Malone as Constance Mackenzie, Ed Nelson as Michael Rossi, Mia Farrow as Allison Mackenzie, Ryan O'Neill as Rodney Harrington, Barbara Parkins as Betty Anderson, Tim O'Connor as Elliot Carson, Christopher Connolly as Norman Harrington.
Norman Harrington today returns to the house of his childhood, the Peyton house, where he grew up with his brother Rodney, a young man now in the aftermath of a violent fight. A primitive give and take with Lee Weber, no holds barred. Rodney and Lee fought over Lee's slurring remarks about Betty Anderson Cord. Who won? The question torments Rodney as it tormented him nearly a year ago when his opponent, Joe Chernak, died.
Morning. What's up?
That's what I wanted to ask you. Rita told me you got in a fight with Lee.
Yeah, what about it?
Why did it happen?
Look, if you come here to give me the third degree, forget it. I don't need it. Not now.
Come on, Rod, we're a family. Isn't that what you've been telling me all along?
Lee got out alive. I had to straighten him out, that's all.
Rita said it was, over Betty.
Where'd she hear that?
Sandy told her. Well, was it over Betty?
It was over a lie that Lee told Stephen about Betty and me.
Nice guy. Where'd you get the idea?
Betty stopped by the garage one day. We talked for a few minutes.
Hey, that's really swollen. Well, why'd you have to fight him? Why didn't you just fire him?
How should I know? He bugged me. How come you fought Joe Chernak?
I didn't like what he said about Rita.
Well, I didn't like what Lee said about Betty.
Well, it's a little different, though, isn't it? I was going with Rita. Betty's married to Stephen. If anybody should fight for her, it should be him, shouldn't it?
Not this time.
Why not? Are you mixed up with Betty again?
No, I'm not mixed up with Betty again.
Look, I never asked you too much about Betty because, well, I figured you knew what you were doing. But let's face it. You're not exactly the typical divorced couple. You're still friends and you spend a lot of time in this house together.
What's that supposed to mean?
It's not smart to start getting in fights over Betty. If Lee wants to smear you, you're making it pretty easy for him.
What's the matter, Norm? Do I embarrass you now that you're a respectable married man?
That's not what I meant, and you know it. All right, I shouldn't have come over. I just thought you might want to talk to someone.
Listen, Norm, my head is bouncing things off like the inside of a handball court.
Well, I better go.
Hey, wait a minute. Before you came in, I was having a dream, a nightmare. I was fighting Lee. And then I was fighting Joe, and then it was Lee again, and then Joe, and I kept smashing him. And then I saw Joe lying there dead in front of me again. I tell you, I don't think I'll ever stop blaming myself for what happened to him.
Come on, Rod. You don't believe that. You know you didn't kill Joe. Look, Stella Chernak told a lie. And you live with it, and you've thought about it for so long that you believe it's the truth.
Maybe it is the truth.
No. The truth is that Joe Chernak was a half-baked jerk who would have ended up face down on the wharf whether you would have been there or not. And the truth is that Lee Weber is another half-baked jerk who's going to go through life pushing anyone who'll let him There are always going to be guys like that, Rod. The trouble is, there are not enough guys like you to stand up to them.
Is it standing up to them? Or is it looking down at them? Who gives me the right to back them into a corner? And who gives you the right to call them a jerk?
They do. The minute they start telling lies about a guy that'll mess up his whole life, that'll start a fight. Then they pick up a gaffing hook when they see they can't finish it. I better go.
Hey. You know, for a kid brother, you're growing up pretty fast. Right now, I'd say you were about 3 or 4 years older than me.
I'll see.
Wait for me, Thomas. Of course, Mr. Peyton. Now you spell that Jarvis. Jarvis, right?
No, with a Y. E-Y-S, the old English spelling. Perhaps if I went over the entire guest list, just once more to be sure.
No, thank you. Sylvia. I'm sure I have it right here. That'll be in the Monday edition of the Social News. All right? Thank you for calling.
My pleasure, Mr. Carson.
Oh, hello, Mr. Peyton.
I want to place a notice in your Thursday edition.
Oh, sure, of course. Let me get my book. Find it in this maze I've got. Oh, here it is, over here.
In memoriam, on the anniversary of the death of my daughter, Catherine. I assume there's still time.
Oh, of course. Would you like us to take care of the wording on it?
Take this down. In memory of my daughter, Catherine Marie Harrington, may Catherine Peyton.
Excuse me, Mr. Peyton. You're going a little bit too fast for me. I don't take shorthand.
Let me know when you're ready.
All right, I'm ready.
Born November 15th, 1918. Die August 29th, 1964. Beloved child, loving mother. In quotes, praising what is lost makes the remembrance dear and sets slanderous tongues at rest.
That's dear. And sets...
Slanderous tongues. That's my personal comment, not a continuation of the copy.
Oh, I see. You want the notice to stop with the quote from Shakespeare, then?
You recognized it?
Yes, that's all's well that ends well, I believe.
Yes.
Now, how big do you want this notice to be?
I'll leave that to your good taste.
6 inches and 2 columns. That'll do it well enough. All right, that'll go in Thursday's edition. Thank you very much for the business, Mr. Peyton. We'll bill you.
I admire your forbearance, Mr. Carson.
Yes?
I know your opinion of my daughter.
I don't ever remember discussing that with you.
Nevertheless, your self-control is admirable.
All right. I'll tell you very frankly that I never have put your daughter, Catherine, in the same class with Florence Nightingale, but what's the point?
The point is that your reaction to my daughter is not unique.
You never let go, do you? What are you trying to prove, anyway?
Prove?
Yes. I mean, when I made this slip a while ago and I called this notice an ad, well, after all, it is an ad, isn't it? I mean, it's an advertisement trying to convince the people in this town that your daughter wasn't really the kind of woman she really was. That she wasn't really
Of what?
Hey,
What are
Paul!
you going to call my daughter? Liar?
Line this thing up with
Murderess?
Listen, please.
Yes, she would be that to you. And yes, I can't blame you for what you feel. You've been sinned against. Whatever you feel about my daughter, you have reason. But what else were you going to say my daughter was, Mr. Carson?
Well, at this moment, Mr. Peyton, I can't say anything. I hardly knew her.
That could be said of almost everyone in Peyton Place. Yet I've heard her called many things by those who envied her.
I never envied her, Mr. Peyton.
My daughter was a troubled girl. High-spirited, beautiful. Perhaps I gave too much to her. But men took too much from her. Every morning, when I came down those stairs and saw her portrait, she was a fine person. Gracious, gifted, and warm.
You know something, Mr. Peyton? That's very good. That's very, very good. I think you've almost convinced yourself about that.
You'll bill me.
But you're not going to stop there, are you, at all? You're going to keep right on trying to sort of overcome this almost, isn't it? Praising with that which is lost.
All's well that ends well.
Did it end well for either of us? Did it ever really end?